reason why I brought you in the ring is to just kind of give you an overall feel of what kind of strategy I have when I'm out here. You have to understand that kicking and punching is part of the complete fighter. As a grappler, I've had to incorporate kicking and punching into my setup strategies and my overall skills. I'm not looking for the knockout punch. I'm not looking for the knockout kick. I'm looking to incorporate it as a setup strategy to utilize my skills as a leg attacker to the best advantage I can. I can show you what I mean by using strikes to set up a leg attack. The most effective thing that I have is I have the element of surprise. Most people think, since I'm a grappler and wrestler by nature, that I'm not really efficient at kicks or punches. But I know that when I attempt a jab or a punch, it's a prelude to a setup. I know that when I throw a jab out there, I'm going to get a reaction from him. Usually, I throw a jab and I usually follow it by a kick, and that kick is to plant my foot for my shot. You can see how it works if I create distance, like I've talked about before, is I'm outside of his striking and punching range. I can step into that only if I'm throwing a punch or a kick or if I'm shooting. That's the only time that I want to come into that distance. Otherwise, it's useless for me to be there unless I totally close the gap down. Now, when I'm throwing a jab out, I'm throwing a jab, and usually it's followed by a kick, and I'm in his range. Either I'm going to land those kicks or punches, or it's going to cause him to react, and when he reacts, it's going to give me an opportunity to set up for my shot. An idea would be, as I throw a jab, get him to react, and as I do that, I do hop steps to set my shots up. So I jab, I hop step, and I can attack his legs. That's a different way to do it. I can throw a jab with a kick, and if I don't land with a kick, if he steps out of the way of it, he steps back away from it, I can set my foot down in a perfect position to be able to hit my leg attacks. Now you have to understand that all of this is just through timing and through effort to be able to get him into a position where he opens up his legs for me to take him down to the ground. You can see once again, as I throw a jab, he's going to react. He has to. If he doesn't react to my jab, I'm going to punch him. So if I throw the jab and he doesn't react, I hit him. You throw your jabs out, followed by kicks. If he moves out of the way of the kicks, it's a good plant for me to be able to hit a leg attack. You can see by his reaction, this is pretty normal for most people. If I throw a jab, he reacts. If he reacts to a kick, he steps out of the way of the kick. If you've ever been kicked, you definitely don't want to be in the way of a low leg kick. So you move out of the way. If he doesn't, I'm going to take that kick. If he moves out of the way, sets him up for a shot. And that's exactly the principles that you apply through all the fundamentals that I showed you up to this point. This is a culmination of everything. This is incorporating all of your knowledge from the foundations that you've learned in the previous tapes. So I throw my jab out, I throw my kick, set him up, and shot. Now the thing about the techniques in the ring is you're not always looking for the picture-perfect, best, pretty, most unbelievable shot. Sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes I might stumble a little bit and have to follow through and walk him up or finish a shot however I have to finish it. That's part of the overall game plan, is that you practice your technique as best you can in the practice room, and when you get in the ring, it becomes a reaction. Now I'm going to show you some basic strikes that I've incorporated into my no-holds-barred fighting. It's not traditional boxing. It's more of an incorporation of Muay Thai, and what the basic principles of punching still apply from boxing to Muay Thai to NHB fighting. You have to understand that I've changed it a little bit to adapt it to my style. And the things that I've told you up to this point, I said, I'm going to teach you the fundamentals, and each of you as an individual are going to tailor them to what works best for you. And that's what I've done with punching. First off, you have to understand is that my stance is not a traditional boxing stance. I've changed it some to be able to still come to you with my leg attacks, but still be able to come to you with my punches as well. I've taken and turned my elbows out, which is a Thai stance, and this protects against kicks that come up high. And I've taken my hands nice and relaxed, fight with them open until I'm ready to strike. My feet are turned out just a little bit, not too much, and I'm not giving you too much of an angle to this side. Because if I'm fighting a kickboxer, I open up this whole entire side for leg kicks, which I definitely don't want to take. I turn out, toes point out a little bit so I can check kicks if I need to. Either side, my hands are faced out so I can block kicks up high. Now you have to understand about punching is that it's the same principles that apply for boxing. Is that when I throw a punch, I throw out, I throw my shoulder out and rotate, and you're throwing not your hand, you're throwing your body. Boom, you throw your body out. I make a little rhythm or a little humming sound. It helps keep me in timing. And when I hit, you exhale. I know a lot of you have seen traditional fighting, you've seen traditional boxing, and this differs a lot because you have to apply it to NHB world. You have to apply it to real fighting. And that's what this is about. Tom can come in here and I'll show you a couple jabs that I do. First off, it's really simple, is that usually when I jab, I take a step forward towards the target that I'm trying to punch. If I'm standing here, me anyways, I like to bounce a little bit, and when I hit, throw it out, pull it right back. And it's nice and light. My hands are relaxed, almost like if I had an egg in my hand and I didn't want to break it. And right when I get to the target, I close my hand and I punch. It makes my hands a little quicker and a little lighter. I just throw it out and pull it back. Now if you look at one thing, when I pull it back and I'm ready to take a kick if I have to. And you have to understand that that's what I have my hands, my elbows, forearms facing towards my target. Because if I have them the other way around like a traditional boxer, if Tom got a kick up high enough, he just blows right through the kick. It's ineffective. So I have to understand my leg position, my hand position, and I have to keep my target. I keep focused in here. I'm a grappler, so I'm always conscious of that when I throw a punch out, I'm ready to attack. So if I threw a punch or even faked a punch, I can go ahead and attack. I can fake a punch, get a reaction, and leg attack. Now a lot of people, when you shoot, you're either going to have your right leg or left leg forward. Traditional boxing is with your left leg forward. I like to wrestle with my right leg forward. And you'll understand what I'm talking about when you play around with this. Even though that I'm opposite foot when I fight, when I shoot, I change feet. So I have to keep that in mind when I'm throwing my punches. If I throw a punch and I cross over, I have to be able to hop my feet and be able to attack. So it's punch, 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 and then I'll change my feet. Here, attack. And you'll play around with this and you'll get it to where it's a timing and it's a rhythm thing. So if we're real fighting, I'm out here and I'm throwing my punches out and I'm looking for a reaction for him, I might fake a reaction here, fake a right hand. I want to hit him. I want to punch him. I'm not going to knock him out. I just want to let him know I'm out here. I want to hit him. I really throw the punches out. And fake. Leg attack. And it all works together. It's all incorporation of starting from the fundamentals, starting from the beginning, and putting it all together where you end up with a good polished piece. And if you look at the fighters now, the better ones, they really look polished and clean and crisp. That's because they've spent the time needed in all areas in order to become efficient. The second part of this, what I wanted to show you, is that I'm either outside the distance, or if I'm in the distance, I'm punching or I'm kicking. And that's really important. You got to understand that if I'm in this distance, I got to be active. Because I know if I'm fighting a striker, he's going to be active. He's going to be throwing punches out. He's going to be working, trying to execute his techniques. In this situation, I either take control or I get out of it. So if I'm in this area, I'm punching or I'm attacking. And that's one real important principle that you have to understand. When I come into range, I have to be active. And I keep saying it over and over again. Out of range, I can relax, gather myself. If I come into range, if I'm in contact, I got to be active. I got to be doing something. I got to be doing something, protecting myself, throwing my punches, fake a kick, change my feet, fake a shot, getting him to react. That's the whole idea. And the whole time is I'm moving around. And you'll understand principles as I start to show you when I'm in the ring, what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish. I am definitely in the center of the ring. I want to control it. I am here. I'm controlling the ring. And as I start to explain something about distance, if I close the distance all the way down, the best thing that I like to utilize in close is I like to utilize my knees. And you'll see the incorporation of this as we go along. I just want to finish off by showing a couple things about punches. Like I was saying earlier, is that when you punch, you pull back to a tie block. No matter what side you're punching, if I throw a left hand and a right hand, when I come back, I'm protecting with a tie block. Pull this back, protecting with a tie block. Always doing that. And you practice it with a bag or with a partner. Lucky I got a partner. He can throw punches back at me, and I'm protecting. I'm protecting myself at all times. And I've showed you the same thing on the ground. Your primary responsibility when you take a guy down is to maintain your balance, maintain your control, and to protect yourself. You don't want to take strikes if you don't have to. So once again, if I'm in the distance, if I'm in close range, I'm working, I'm punching, hooking. Doesn't matter what kind of punch combinations I put together. It's all tailored to you individually. But I like to do a series of punches, kicks. It doesn't matter what combinations I put together. It matters the technique that I use, though. Right? Follow me a little bit. You're going to do some hand striking. Jab. Jab, cross. Jab. Jab, cross. Jab, block. Block. Block, check. Check. Hook. Check. Jab kick. High kick. High kick. Jab kick. Jab kick. Jab kick. Shot. Block. Hook. Tight, tight.
Round, bounce off the rope, move around more.
Jab. Jab, cross. Block. Block. Check. Check. Back.
Knees, elbows, hips.
Low kick. Low kick. Jab. 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 Thing. Back. Hook. Jab. 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 Cross. Hook. Hook. Never. Low kick. Low kick. Low kick. Yeah. Step shot. Tighten. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit. You can keep following me along. You can do this with a bag or with a partner. Low kick. Low kick. Jab kick. Jab kick. Jab. Jab cross. Jab kick. Jab kick. Low kick. High kick. High kick. Jab kick. Jab cross. Jab hook. Jab kick. This. Low kick. Jab kick. Low kick. High kick. High kick. Jab. Jab. One thing that I'm going to show you about my knees is that people who see me fight and kind of follow it through know that I love to use knees on the ground and on my feet. Anytime that I get in close and I close the distance, I love to administer a knee strike. And the principle you have to understand behind it is that I'm using the point of my knee. It's pretty hard. And I use that point and I deliver a pretty precise strike to the body. And what I do to give it a little extra power is that when I'm in here, I use something called a skip step. I skip step, and what I mean is I scissor step my feet like this, and it sets my hip. And when it sets my hip, it enables me to really power up for a knee strike. So if I'm in here tight and I close the distance down, even from this close or even this close, I can still skip step and deliver a knee strike. If this knee was forward, I'd want to move it away from the body and then right back into it, like this. You'd have to understand at the same time that I'm doing it, I'm pulling his body in just a little bit, and when I get to his body here, I'm pulling my hips in. And what I do is it really is an effective tool. You can see if Tom picks a pad up, you can see what I'm talking about. Is when I get in here and I skip step, if this foot was forward, second I bring it back, I touch and bring it in. So it's a little drill you do. You start again, and then what you do is you get in a rhythm and you can change sides. You'll start here, and as you get better at it, you can deliver more of a power strike. You get in rhythm. If you work on that, really effective strikes when you get in close. And it's the same principle on the ground. You'll see when I move the fight down to the ground, that I don't have the ability to skip step, but I have the ability to drive a knee. They're really effective, great tools to use. I'm going to show you some techniques from the ground. We're moving down here for a couple different reasons. One is you know the fight's going to end up down here. Same principles apply as on your feet. You got to use combinations of things to open a guy up on the ground to be able to strike effectively. And you'll notice if you watch NHB fights, you won't see a guy tap and you'll see a guy, he'll hit hard and then he'll change to a different angle, change to a different side, always trying to work to set him up. The guy on the bottom is just like if he was standing on his feet. He's blocking, moving his head, moving around. You have to definitely secure his head, his arms, and you have to be able to move him effectively. I'm going to show you just some basic techniques for me that I use. My favorite strike on the ground is a palm strike. And the principle behind it is that when I'm on the ground, I have an ability to hit a lot harder with my palm than I do with my fist. And you don't understand the reason behind this because the angles that I create when I punch with my closed fist, I'm punching with the weakest part of my hand. Because usually you have to hook around blocks, and when you hook around blocks, you really expose these bottom two knuckles, which is really the weakest part of your punching hand. Sometimes you can get up and you can punch and hit with a strong two knuckles, but very rarely can you get a clean strike like that. Therefore, you stand a better chance of administering a good strike with less risk of breaking your hand with a palm heel. It's a strike down. It's the same principle behind throwing a punch on your feet. The second that I start to generate that power, I want to load it up and I'm going to deliver it with my full body twisted down. So if I was going to hit here, I'd hit palm strike down. And you have to understand when I'm delivering the punch, or delivering the palm, is I'm delivering it, holding my target still, and effectively hitting it down. And you can strike to the temple, it's the same thing. Rolling your hand back, using this hard part of your palm to strike to the temple. You can hit here. It's really effective, and it's really going to deliver a good strike. And you understand what I mean with an opponent who's down. Even if I was in his guard here, my objective is to hold, is to get him to where he's stationary. Because if I'm trying to strike, he's just like on his feet. He's sliding and moving, and he's trying to move out of the way of the punches. Effectively, if I hold him and I stabilize him, and then I administer a strike, it's a lot more effective. Inside the guard, there's a different principle of punching, and you understand that he can control your in and out motion. So a lot of times when I strike from a guard position is I come up into a tripod, and it enables me to pin and trap him down. And when I pin and trap him down, if you notice one thing here, is I trap my legs in tight here, and now I can administer strikes. But again, I want to hold his head, or I want to stabilize him in some way. And by doing that, it enables me to be a lot more effective and a lot more accurate with my punches. Now, if I move to a side mount, you understand that as I was showing you on my feet, the thing that I like to use primarily from a side mount is I like to utilize my knees, my elbows, and palm strikes. And you understand why the principles that I just explained, why I want to use palm strikes, why I want to use my knees and my elbows is less likely I'm going to do damage than I'm going to do with my hands. So if I'm down here, like I said before, as I stabilize, control, administer a strike. Now I might have to change it up. He might have this really well defended. I might have to strike to the body here. He goes to block it. I come to the head. It's a variety of combinations of things. It's not just one thing that's going to end up finishing the fight. And like I've told you before, my whole objective is to soften him up with blows or with strikes. That enables me to get in a better position to be able to finish him with a choke or an arm lock or a leg lock or some other kind of finishing hold. That's my primary objective. Most people might find this to be odd, but there is technique to a headbutt. Most people don't think about it, but there is an actual technique to headbutting. People who have seen me fight in the past know that I utilize head-to-head strikes quite often. And the reason why I can leave a fight and not have a mark on me is because there's a technique to it. When I am going to headbutt someone, the first thing I have to keep in mind is that I have to accelerate and meet his head with this crown part of my head. I just don't want to kind of leisurely dink him. When I rotate down to headbutt, it sounds so weird to even explain this, but when I rotate down to a headbutt and I'm rotating here, I'm aiming right with this part of my head. So if I was going to headbutt him and any part of his face here, I'm going to rotate and meet him right here with the crown of my head. It has to hit there. Any other part's just too soft and it's too bony. The top part of my head, just like everyone else, is pretty thick plate. And you can really whack at it, and it's just like if I was blocking a kick. If I block a kick or check a kick, it hurts the kicker a lot more than it does the blocker. And with a headbutt, it hurts the person getting headbutted much more than the person headbutting. You have to understand that, because some people might be a little tentative to do it, might think, oh gosh, it's going to give me a lump on my head. But if you do it effectively and you do it right and use the center part of your head, you're going to be able to really inflict some damage on your opponent and get him to definitely change his position. I know if I'm headbutting him and he doesn't like it and I'm meeting him with the crown of my head, he's probably going to change positions. That's what I want him to do, change positions so I can get different locks, different holds. Like I said before, and I keep reiterating over and over again, if I end a fight by striking, that's great. But I really want to end a fight by choking, by arm barring, by locking, by utilizing my different skills besides going out there and just punching, elbowing, kneeing, and kicking someone to get them to submit. Now remember, with the headbutt, I'm rolling my head down and I'm powering up right at the bottom of it. So from here, I power up right at the bottom and I roll and I hit him with this part of my head, right here. And it's really effective. You can ask anyone who's seen a couple of my fights that have been able to utilize headbutts. They're really effective strikes, and they really come in handy, especially if a guy's grabbing you tight here and you're pushing away and you can't really get leverage on a punch. You can roll down, headbutt. Remember, roll down, headbutt, top part of your head. These are some of the cardio drills that I use that help strengthen my conditioning and help strengthen my timing. I use these drills about 3 or 4 days a week, and it all depends on what I did for my combat drills. These are extra drills. These are not part of my overall everyday routine as far as combat workouts, but they are part of my routine as part of my cardio routine. And you have to understand the difference is that I have about 4 combat workouts a week where I go in there and I really bang, and then I have on top of that I have cardio conditioning workouts that I do as well. Plus I do my weight training as well, plus I do my technique. So it's a full-time job. I know a lot of you that are involved in this and want to learn about it, you can't take it as a full-time job. So you just take a little bit at a time and you want to work on that until you got it, and you move on, and it's building blocks. This conditioning drill that I do practices, it helps my cardio conditioning because it's really demanding, and it helps my timing because I have my partner stand there and we'll rotate minutes. And I'll do my shots, but I'll do them off my punches. Shot, back up, punch, shot, back up, punch, fake, shot, shot. Another conditioning drill that I like to use is hand fighting. Hand fighting comes into play in a lot of different reasons. One is that sometimes in a fight, when you close the distance down, it's your ability to control his hands that enable you to avoid strikes and be able to hit. And it's really important when you're in these close quarters to have a good feeling of balance so you don't get tripped easily, knocked off balance, knocked down to the ground. So a hand fighting drill that I use for conditioning goes something like this. What I'm doing when I'm in here and I'm fighting hard is I'm trying to always knock him off balance. I'm always trying to, if he grabs and leans too tight, I knock him off balance. I'm always coming to the head here because with his head I can control the motion of his whole body. And when I control the motion of his whole body, it really helps me able to slip in a knee, either to the solar plex, to the thighs, or even to the head. And it all helps when you're in here tight and you're fighting, controlling his head, banging on him, keeping him off of you here, or pulling him really tight, controlling him here, underhooking him, body locking him, loading him up. You got to be able to control him. It's all part of the conditioning. You work this with a partner, you work it with intensity, and you work it hard, you're going to get really effective with your balance in close quarters. And your balance in close quarters, really important. Watch again. Here we go. Another technique that I use, actually a training tool, I should say, that I use, is I use a little spin drill. It really helps me out for my conditioning, helps me out for different positions and mobility on the ground. It's just the beginning of being able to keep your ground balance, I should call it, really. Because down here, a lot of times, this is a good position to train out of, and this is a good position to condition out of. From here, I usually grab a hold of the guy, start my conditioning drill right from here. Like if he had shot in on me, I'd stop the shot, block the shot from here. I'm gonna spin behind. Spin behind. You look, what I'm doing when I spin is I catch here, because otherwise if I go to spin, he'll just put an arm up, catch my leg, and I could give him my leg, give him the position. So I pull him forward, put in, spin here, spin behind here, spin here, around. Part of what you look at here is the conditioning part, but the other part's the technical part. When I'm doing it, I'm concentrated and focusing on keeping my body tight to him, keeping his body trapped down to the ground, and making sure that when I pull him, he can't utilize his arms to grab me. I pull him forward so he has to keep balance. I spin behind him, keeping him trapped down. I pull him in for a knee strike, elbow strike. I kind of touch this and go. Always controlling him, moving, making sure that my technical part is good, but also making sure my intensity part is good. The more my conditioning drills that I meet my intensity demands, the more it becomes part of me. And the more it becomes part of me, the more I'm able to carry it into the ring and make my intensity level in the ring even higher than what it is in my conditioning drills. Another drill I use is for balance. And part of this drill, I give my leg up. I go ahead and have the man try to knock me off balance. It's a really important drill because not always am I going to be in control of every position in every fight. As much as I would like to think that I am, sometimes I end up in bad position. One of the most important things that I've emphasized in position in fighting is balance. Balance on the ground, balance on your feet. Great way to practice it is with this drill on your feet. You have the guy try to knock you off balance. He moves you around, you keep balance. Doesn't matter which way he takes you, I'm going to grab a hold of him and I'm going to keep balance. Keep balance, keep balance. Doesn't matter what he's going to do, I'm going to stay balanced. He can bring me any way he wants, and he can't knock me off my feet. That's the whole idea. So I'm going to stay balanced. Stay balanced. And eventually, I get out. It's a great drill. Try it, I think you'll like it. Another training tool I like to use is a throwing dummy. Not always can you use your partner, practice your throws on, it's a little too much wear and tear. So I like to incorporate in my training cycle a throwing dummy. Usually with the throwing dummy, some of the things I like to practice is foot sweeps, some of your tosses, some of your suplees. Makes it a lot easier to do it with the dummy than with a partner. Some of the foot sweeps that I like to practice with it is just I like to pick and kick with it. Here. If you look at what I'm doing when I pick and kick, it'd be the same if I had a partner. If I had an actual live person that was in tight and close with them, and I couldn't drop down and grab their legs and take them down, or I couldn't body lock them, I use a little foot sweep. What I like to do for a foot sweep is I like to pull him into me, catch his foot, and sweep him. If I'm doing it right, I can make the dummy do a complete circle in the air as I pick him and I sweep him all the way over. It takes a little bit of effort to do it, but if you do it for a drill, you do it to both sides here. Pick, sweep. Pick him up. Do it other side. You pick, sweep. When you sweep, you pull him over. Here. Kick him all the way over. You continue to do this. You do it in minute drills. You get a little rhythm. All the way over. Up. Other side, pick, sweep. All the way over. It's tiring. It's a drill, though. It's effective, and it works, and it's good technique. Another technique that you can use the dummy for in conditioning is you can get your heart rate up. So I like to use suplees. Like I said, it's a lot easier to do with the dummy than it is with a partner because you start with a dummy, you can learn to control the dummy, and then you can move to a partner, and also it's less wear and tear. What I like to do to practice these is usually I get my body lock position, and I'm going to practice my back arch, and with it, you got to be really careful when you start off with the technique because you run the risk of injuring yourself if you do it sloppily. So if you notice, when I grab the dummy and I'm doing my back arch, I get my feet planted, my hips in, and I use my hips to lift the dummy. And when I step in, I just literally look straight to the sky, and then I turn out. So it's over and throw in the dummy. And if you're using it as a training, as a conditioning technique, what you want to do is you want to get as many in 2 minutes as you can. And if you look, I can hold it a little bit longer to almost where my head touches the ground. Right from here. And you want to keep doing them over and over again. And then do it right here. Because if I grab the hold of him and I get again. As you can see, the training dummy is a good piece of equipment that I use to help improve my throwing techniques and my conditioning. If you use it, it's going to take less toll on your training partner, help you improve your throwing techniques, help improve your overall fight game. Right now I'm going to demonstrate some of the weight training programs that I use, and I use these programs about 6 weeks out from a fight. Normally I train pretty heavily with weights. As you can tell, power and strength have become a key ingredient for NHB fighting. Right now I'm going to introduce to you some of the weight training programs that I use for NHB fighting. I've become really specific with what training programs I've implemented as far as strength. It's important for me to have endurance, power, and conditioning. And my weight training programs really reflect that. I use things specifically for kicking and punching, and also for controlling the opponent. And you have to understand that it's really important to have the power and strength, but if you don't have the conditioning behind it, all that power and strength is useless. So right now I'm going to grab some weights. I'm going to show you a quick little circuit that I use for my legs. And remember, this is about 6 weeks out from the fight. Usually I go a little heavier with the weights. I use squats and I use some leg press and some leg extensions. But closer to a fight, I use conditioning, and weight conditioning is really important. Some of the weights that I use are usually a little heavier, but I do a little jump series, I do a lunge series, and then I do twists, and that's 3 exercises I put together. Usually I keep my circuits 3 or 4 or 5 exercises together, and you'll see what I mean. You'll see how everything relates to the ring. Usually when I'm doing lunges are definitely going to help you come up for explosion and power. And if you're building strength and building conditioning, if you also need to build some size, you can increase the amount of weights you do. Along with the lunges, I use a box, actually it's either a box jump or I use a dumbbell jump. And this is for explosions, and you'll see how they'll relate. You usually start off parallel to the ground, and this is, you bring this right along. After you're done with your lunges, you bring this right along, come down parallel, and you want to explode up. And you'll see what this is. It's for your explosions, for your shots. It's explosions for your kicks and your knees. Next, I grab a 45-pound plate. This is for your twists, for your punches. You can do this standing, which works really well. Really helps you work your side, your obliques, your abs. And all this ties into delivering a punch, delivering a kick. If you can't make a transition from your lower body to your upper body, your body's going to find the weakest link. Really focus in on my abs. You can tell it's good conditioning. You can do these standing, or you can do them walking. Either way. And then there, you go into hang. Obviously, improves your grip, improves your strength in your back, and it's also good addition for your kicks. I use this all in a series. I do the lunges, the dumbbell jumps, the 45-pound plate twist, and you kind of tweak some of the weights that you use and tailor it to your needs. If you need to build up some size and strength, use bigger weights. You can add other exercises in there. Like I said, I use this closer to a fight. As you can tell, get your heart rate up, get your blood pumping. It's good for your conditioning, and it's great because it's specific for the things that you use in the ring. For your explosion, for your kicks, explosion for your shots, explosion for your punches. All of them tie together. That's just one little quick series that I use. I'm going to show you another one for your more specific for your upper body, for grabbing control of your opponent and utilizing that type of conditioning and strength. Another advanced technique that you can use for your abs, and I can't emphasize this enough, is that your strength and your abs makes your transition from your lower body to your upper body possible to throw a punch. When I step into a punch, I can't deliver that punch effectively if I don't have strong abs. When I deliver that punch, it's a transition from my lower body all the way up to my upper body and releasing the punch, but I'm really throwing it with my hip. I use this, and this is really rough. It's gonna take you a while to try it. I pull my legs up. When you pull them up, you want to drop them over and over and over and over. Try it. I tell you, it'll build your abs up, along with using the 45-pound plate. If you use these two exercises, you'll notice a big difference in how effectively you can punch and how much more power you can get behind them. Guarantee you. One thing I have to emphasize is closer to a fight, 6 to 8 weeks out from a fight, I'm not in the weight room pumping heavy weights. I'm conditioning the size and strength that I have already existing. I'm not in there trying to gain size or gain strength. I'm in there trying to condition the size and strength that I have at that point. I put together little circuits like the one that I just showed you for your legs and for your upper body for punching. I also do a short one for my upper body. And give you an example, is everything's really specific for what I'm doing in the ring. I take 15 pounds or whatever I feel like I want that day, and I'll use my punching technique, and I'll do them for minutes. I'll let my watch set on reset for a minute. Do it for a minute. Keep punching. Keep punching. And you can keep going. You can tell with the conditioning, you're definitely gonna end up burning some. You do shoulders, keep them burning. Everything you wanna burn. You wanna do it for a minute. Doesn't matter how hard you do it. Just matters that you're doing it nice, making sure you burn. Making sure it burns. And shoulders are the most important thing for me anyways, because they come into play in a large percentage of the things that you do in the ring. You're punching, you're grabbing, it's part of it. And also, you add in here your curls. And then you close it out with your punches. This is when we really burn. This is when you get the grit in. Usually I'll do 4 or 5 sets of that. And it's a continuous thing. You keep it going. Same things with your legs. The routine that I showed you before, I'm doing 4 or 5 sets of that. And you get a good burn, good conditioning for your muscles, and you'll notice a big difference. When you start to train like this, you'll see improvements in the ring. And those are the improvements that count the most.
With the world's most dangerous group, 4 deep in the coop.
I'ma smoke where I wanna smoke.
Fuck that.
I'ma joke who I wanna choke.
Fuck that.